Hi there and welcome back to this week's trade recap, and finally we are back because finally we had a green week. It's been a really small profit, but regarding the previous 3 or 4 weeks, this is quite good. I could have performed better, but I think I have some interesting things to show once again, so I'll go just right ahead and show them to you. Since we always start from the beginning of the week, I will show just what happened on Monday, just really quickly. We were with a bullish bias right here because we are close to all-time highs. We swept this low, and bias on all-time highs tends just to be bullish. And here we had a high inside of our valley gap, and on the 1 minute we had this 930 high, which we already know is a really good liquidity pool. And right here we had this inversion to the upside that I didn't take because this closed way above what I wanted, and it ended up being a break even, but in my opinion I should have taken this as well. Usually what we want to see is this one get inversed and the candle usually closes around here or here, and then we long to the buy side, but this closed above these relatively equal highs, which to me was already an invalid trade. And because we were on Monday, things tend to be imperfect, so in my opinion this wasn't the best trade to take, but I should have taken it at least to this break-even side. On Tuesday my bias was bearish because we had this low inside of our valley gap, and we had this from the previous week new day opening gap, and here this really looks like a market maker sell model, and we delivered from this one on the 15 minutes, so this looks really bearish. But if I go on the 3 minutes, here what we want to see is as to just go lower, and I thought we were gonna go to our draw on liquidity in this candle, but we didn't. We kept rolling higher, and here I have a problem because the bias equals our draw on liquidity plus order flow, and the order flow here was being quite bullish. We were making propulsion blocks, order blocks, and we had really good momentum to the upside. We rejected this with a really big candle, and order flow here looked quite bullish. But our draw on liquidity was bearish, so we didn't quite have a bias. And when we don't have a bias, you tend to either make mistakes or just don't trade. And this was one where I made a mistake because the order flow was bullish, so I invented a draw on liquidity. Here we had this trend line liquidity to the upside, and when we generate a setup above the trend line liquidity to the upside, this tends to be quite good and a quite fast setup to go to the draw on liquidity. But the problem here is that the liquidity above isn't the best. This is quite a bad liquidity. This one is really better than this one. So taking this trade to the upside is bad, and I did ended up taking this trade, which got me stopped out for a small loss, but it's bad. And it's really good for us to see that our draw on liquidity from the beginning was quite right, because we ended up not targeting the new day opening gap from the previous week, but we did target the low inside of our valley gap, and this shows that bias is always king, which is something that we already know, but I made a mistake this day. Right into Wednesday, I was done before market open, because if we come on the 5 minute, we see that we have this perfect equal lows, and we were already far away from the all-time highs, not that far but sufficiently far, so we don't need to keep longing all the way. And here my draw on liquidity was clearly this that allows inside this new day opening gap. And if we go on a 3 minute, here we see that we left this for valley gap after creating these equal lows, and I was already disregarding this because we kept going higher. But when we inverse this fair valley gap and we inverse this breaker block, which then became a breaker block, this was quite obvious that this would work. We had FOMC, so the only thing that I target was this one, this busy that wasn't tapped, wasn't mitigated. So I shorted on when we inversed this, my stop loss was above, and I took everything right here, which was a really good trade. And this was a really good day because we also left equal highs. And usually what we want to see is us take one of the conflicting draws for us to take the other one. And here I took a trade to the equal lows without waiting for us to take the equal highs, which usually makes me lose trades. But with this momentum, disregarding this BPR, disregarding this fair value gap, like they weren't even there, this shows us that we are probably going to take this lower. And I say that this is a really good day with a really good price action because after taking the equal lows, we went for the equal highs with a really good momentum, and there was probably something that we could also take here, but I was already done for the day with my one win. And now on Friday, because I will just skip Thursday, because in my opinion there wasn't any trade there that was really obvious that we could take. Here we did have a trade that we could take. We are on all-time highs, so that makes us bullish all the way, and we swept this low inside the fair value gap, we delivered from that fair value gap, and usually this isn't a really good price action and we don't generate good setups around here, but here we created equal highs. So this became my target for the day, and we have news to the upside. If we go here on the 1 minute, we see that we had this news, and here we left this equal lows with the data low, which usually tends to be a really good liquidity pool, but because we already swept liquidity below here, in my opinion, this is the king drawn liquidity of the day, and this was where the market was gonna go, in my opinion. And we had this 1 minute inversion that I didn't take because when I got into the market, I wasn't that ready, because I got into the market when we were already creating this inversion to the upside, and I didn't have enough time for me to pay attention to the market and to see where we could go and to see that this setup was really good. And I didn't ended up taking that because we also had a 5 minute and a 3 minute, and we were on pre-market, so I wanted us to inverse everything for me to take a setup to the upside. And here we closed way above the fair value gap, and I didn't take this because this was negative RR. Yes, we ended up going just blasting 200 points to the upside, but I only had confidence in this equal highs, and EA is still already taken. So here we had an SMT, which usually can be just disregarded on all-time highs. These SMTs on the highs tend to be weaker. They tend to mean less than on other occasions. But I wanted everything to be perfect because I didn't want to ruin any profit that I had this week. The main lesson that we have to learn here is that we delivered from this V-shape BPR to the upside. We created another block and we inversed this 1 minute with a lot of momentum. So usually this doesn't fail. This just shows that we want to go to the upside, and this shows that our draw on liquidity is really this, and we are quite right. I ended up not taking this because I wanted the 3 to inverse and the 5 to inverse, and the lesson to be learned is that we should take this 1 minute because with all this momentum in other blocks, this should work. And also, if we didn't take this 1 minute, we could take the retrace into this 5 minute BZ, this 5 minute fair value gap to the upside, which I wanted to, but we were getting close to the open and I started creating excuses which don't really make sense. Either way, this is a really good trade for us to take in the future. That's everything from my part for this week. Let's see if we can get even better things in the next week. This was a really good week in terms of price action and setups. I wasn't able to capitalize once again and the things that I wanted, but we keep improving. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.